Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you here, all of you, on a Saturday morning. Thanks for sparing time, and welcome to once again on a Saturday webinar by High Potential Career Planning. So I have Manisha, who is a co-founder in this journey. Yes. As you all know, we have this webinar every Saturday, and we pick up topics which are relevant for professionals to look at and think about, ideas to share insights and knowledge which we are sharing when we are talking to people and trying to build this vertical of high potential career planning. So with that, I'll just give you about how we go about the whole webinar, 90 minutes which we are here together. So I'll take you through the presentation, what thoughts we have share with you, and last 15-20 minutes we'll have a Q&A session. Now this topic is very, very interesting. All of you agree that with changing times, it's important for leadership to look at their own skills. And what are your thoughts, initial thoughts of, I would just like to get a sense of, you can just put it in the chat box also. You just hold on for a minute before you share the screen. So do you all agree that there's a need to look at the skills at a leadership level?
Sandeep, absolutely. Adaptability is the core. Without adapting to the new situations and evolving situations, it will be difficult for anyone to survive.
Great. I think the fact that you have come in here for this webinar, I mean, that in itself is an acknowledgement that there's a need to look at and reflect on what are the skill set which is required. So thanks. So we'll with that on that note, we'll just start.
You missed my name. My name is Anil. Anil Nair here.
Anil, I think your iPhone.
My iPhone only I joined. Yes.
Yeah. I think you've joined from your iPhone. Yeah. Have you once again, Anil?
Yeah, Sandeep, just one point I wanted to share.
Yeah.
I think what do I say? Skill sets required, leadership skill sets, is becoming like a complex maze. I mean, one can't just say that to become a successful leader in organization, I need to have just 1, 2, or 3 skill sets. I think it's becoming like one complex maze, and you need to have strategic thinking, you need to have cultural adaptability, you need to be a problem solver. I mean, it's a very complex maze, and many a times people have few, people don't have few. But you have to really develop that maze of skill sets which can help you handle very different situations that one can expect to face in the leadership journey.
Absolutely. So I think it's going to be interesting for us to have this discussion and insight. So what I'll try and see is if I can cover this most of it in 50-55 minutes, so that we have at least 30 minutes for a discussion. Let me see how much I can cover. Even if I'm not able to cover most of it, I think last 25-30 minutes will devote for discussion. So with that as a background, let me just get onto the presentation and start and initiate some thoughts in your mind, all of you. Yeah, Roshni, you can just put up the presentation. So you can make it full screen, I guess. Khushi. So if you look at, I mean, yes, as we all know that skill set which is required, one needs to relook and keep on continuously reflecting upon the skill sets we have. And most of the times we all focus on skill sets of we as an individual. That's the lens most of us actually use. I think what is also very, very important for all of us to understand, that is one lens, and that is not 360 degree actually. If one is we as an individual, we as an individual leader, individual professional, and as we all said that it's lifelong learning and adaptability. But beyond that, I think it's extremely important to look at a couple of other areas. Immediate importance, immediate most critical thing is family part. I mean, how is the family piece? Your children, your wife, your parents, your in-laws. with the changing dynamics and the changing situations, how are they changing and how are they evolving? That is extremely, extremely important. Because as a leader, if one has to be growing and doing justice for your own self and for your family, these are going to be the most important parameters. You yourself have to just do justice to yourself, and the next important aspect is your family. So I think family lens is very important. The way earlier parents were handling their children, today's children, and with the growing age of children, how they are behaving, parents' needs, life expectancy of parents have gone up. At home, your spouse, with the way things are changing, with the way digital media, social media is happening, social Instagram, the way she's spending time, she's changing. Similarly, geopolitical environment. I mean, it's not only me as my business, my category in my country, but it is also about neighboring countries. It is also about global, and there are so many changes happening around that. And as a result, micro policies, globalization versus protectionism, somebody changing tariff rules in some part of the country, globe, and then it is going to impact. So this skill aspect of a CEO or a leader, one has to look at the lens beyond an individual lens, and one has to look at a 360-degree view and then look at the skill aspect of it. Yeah, Kushi, you can put the next slide. Now let us look at why the skill sets change. Okay. If you look at the way human beings as a Homo sapiens as a race, as we have evolved, there has been evolution, right? I mean, we were living in caves and then we started living in houses, and then there's a mythology and there's a history, and then there were kingdoms, then there was freedom, then there was a British rule, then there was a democracy. So, I mean, it's as a race we are evolving, and with race, the way we as Homo sapiens have evolved, a lot of things changing. We as individuals, our ambitions, our aspirations, our thought process is changing with the evolution, with more knowledge. There's a progression which is happening, and with more knowledge, while the progression is happening, it also impacts then individual, family, businesses, micro environment. Now, earlier, I mean, if you look at Stone Age, then there was a innovation of wheel. Wheel evolution led to more efficiencies, followed by steam engine, further more efficiencies. And then every innovation has two sides. It has a positive impact, it has a negative impact. So a nuclear bomb was innovated and with an objective to have nuclear energy, but we all know the kind of havoc it created also. Similarly, further than internet, AI, now internet is a boon, and the way we are doing business has changed dramatically, but it is also leading to some other side effects. Similarly, like if we start using chat GPT, I mean, I can tell you it can enhance your efficiency 10 times, at least 10 times. But at the same time, it also has its nuances of most of the jobs will become redundant. If most of the jobs are going to be redundant, then how are you going to keep yourself relevant? How we as humanity are going to evolve? What kind of new jobs are going to get created? So with every innovation, as we evolve, there's a disruption and there's an evolution, and then we go to the next stage. But if you look at now, earlier from, for example, Stone Age to wheel and wheel to steam engine, the time it took was, I mean, maybe a couple of thousand years. But today, because of the way it's an accelerated evolution, I would say. Internet to chat GPT is just maybe 25, 30 years, right? So now, because of the way stage at which we are, the change and disruptions, speed at which is going to happen is only going to get accelerated. Yeah. Go to the next slide. Now, when there's an evolution and when there's a change which is happening, it is impacting society. Value systems are changing. Way businesses are changing. Way families are handling themselves. Earlier, it was a joint family structure. Earlier, we were actually live in forests in herds. Then there was a marriage institution, and then there was a family. Then there was a joint family. Then there was a nuclear family. And now we are at a stage wherein people are getting married and they're saying we don't want to have children. And there will be a stage, and there are at least 15-20% youngsters today are saying they don't want to even get married. So society is changing. And the way people used to stay, that is undergoing sea change. As a result, it will definitely have impact on businesses from multiple angles. It will have impact on businesses and all other aspects. Earlier, there used to be monopolistic approach. One organization, yeah, one company is doing a business. We started with barter system. I mean, business actually started with barter system, exchange of goods. There was no currency. Then there was a currency. Then there was monopoly. Now we are in a hyper competitive space, and things are only going to change with digital platforms, new business models evolving, and as a result, businesses will have to be very agile. Customer centricity will have to be focused. The approach will have to be like almost like continuously having a thought process of flying an aeroplane, at the same time changing aspects of aeroplane and rebuilding it.
Recording in progress.
That's the approach which businesses will have to take. I think it will be very, very important. Thought process of saying, I guess someone is having a echo. So yeah. So thought process of having a system and process which will last for 10 years, 15 years. I mean, is that going to be relevant? It may be relevant in some businesses, but one has to really think of building business approach, which is like building aeroplane while they are flying, because that's how the world is going to change and the speed at which it is going to change. Similarly, within families and individuals. I mean, earlier, mental health, emotional resilience, adaptability were never as relevant. They were relevant that time also, but the kind of challenges, kind of evolution which is happening, amount of time which we are spending on small screen, amount of time which we are actually entering virtual world, and you are yourself, but you are in a virtual world. And it is a time now wherein ChatGPT technology, I can actually have my own movie. I can decide who's going to be the hero, who's going to be the villain, and what kind of storyline which I should have, and I can have that movie running for me. Families and individuals are changing. Things are changing rapidly. Lifestyles. Earlier it used to be like in caves you were hunting, and you were only hunting for the one meal, yeah, that meal. Then as we evolved, then it was roti kapda makan, basic necessities honi chahiye. Now things are very, very, I mean, widely changing. I mean, you have e-commerce, quick commerce. Earlier, food was getting cooked at homes. Now, I mean, you are having Zepto. You're ordering 5 minutes before the guests come. Earlier, after having relatives, having a proper meal at home was a celebration. Now people come at home, but food is getting ordered from outside. Kind of clothes which are getting worn, kind of houses which we are having, that is also undergoing sea change. So evolution will impact all aspects: society, business, families, lifestyles. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. You can take us to the next slide. Now let us look at current state. Where are we currently? See, currently, earlier, like knowledge was strength, and based on insights and knowledge, other people were not able to copy or do business which you are having, because based on that knowledge, individuals, yeah, businesses, yeah, families were handling themselves. Today, knowledge is democratic. Anybody in the world can have any knowledge, and in between them, there are academic institutes which are imparting knowledge. Before that, it was family and society was imparting knowledge before education, formal education coming into place. Now, post formal education, now the kind of knowledge access is there and knowledge is there. It is all across. Girls in villages in Bihar who are not literate also can log into Harvard Business School. So they don't know how to read and write, but they can log into Harvard Business School and study Harvard Business School's case studies. So knowledge is democratic. There's so much of knowledge available at a click of button. It's totally decentralized. Technology, I mean, internet, IoT, blockchains, AI, and we'll have superhumans. But you really don't know what stage we'll evolve. But technologies have evolved big time, and people can reach and connect with anybody across the world at a fraction of a second. I mean, earlier, like for example, to get a phone at home used to take 2 3 years. Then came time of mobiles wherein your outgoings were charged. Then came a situation wherein now we are doing calls, we have internet, and there's no cost, and data is like rock bottom cheap. And Tesla is trying to evolve technology wherein there's no cost for data. So technology is changing rapidly. As a result, if knowledge, see innovations, how innovations happen? Innovations happen based on knowledge, based on how individuals are thinking and how intelligent individuals are. Now, if knowledge is democratic, individuals are evolving, innovations will only get faster and faster. Because earlier only few people were thinking of innovation and few knowledge were only accessible to few people. Now, if knowledge is accessible to everybody, today someone in a village in Africa, yeah, Indonesia, India can compete with best of the brands in apparels. You might have Louis Vuitton, you might have best of the global brands, but with this brand, someone sitting in a village in any part of the globe can compete because they don't need to have the high street retail outlet. They can just have an innovative product and they can sell it to anybody across the world at whatever price they want. That is how the knowledge, technology, and innovation is going to happen, and it will only increase. We can go to the next slide. Now then, look at what is happening to an individual in the process, in the evolution journey, what is happening to the individual. There's so much around individual. As we said, we have to look at first managing self and then family. Physical well-being, physical strength of people, because of the lifestyles, the amount of time they are able to give to themselves, to their own health, balancing stress, fitness, nutrition, food habits are changing. You are eating from outside, it is impacting your health. Because of the expectations at job, are you able to give time to your physical fitness? So individual's physical well-being is also getting impacted because of all the paraphernalia, what is happening around. Mental well-being, awareness, fortunately now for mental well-being is going up. But all the aspects which are impacting business, which are impacting society, which are impacting families, the way they are structured, is impacting mental well-being. Earlier, I mean, respect and relationship between children and parents was different. Today, relation between parents and children is changing big time. The relation between your neighbors in society where you're staying was different. You are actually, as I said, you're living in virtual world, and when you're living in virtual world, then it is impacting your mental well-being. Similarly, emotional anchors which were earlier are way big time changing. And when the emotional anchors are changing, the kind of relationship you are having with friends, I can tell you, youngsters today are going through emotional challenge. And he said, I have very good close friends. And when I was talking to them, I had a couple of calls, and I said, let us solve the issue of this young boy, friend of yours. We did 2 calls, 3 calls. He was calling them closest friends. But after the third call, those friends were not taking his calls, yeah, my calls. So emotional well-being, the way it is changing is very, very, it is actually in a very, very different angles, and most of us are not able to really reflect on it. Best friends, what we are calling, they are not available. We are calling them best friends, but they're not available. Relationships are changing. So in the whole ecosystem, while this is happening, it's extremely important for an individual to understand how am I going to manage myself. And because ultimately, if you manage yourself effectively, then only you can do better in life. You will be happy, you will be healthy. In the changing ecosystem, my kids are not going to stay with me. My friends, I might call them close friends, but they are going to be only up to a certain level. So how do I keep myself physically fit when there's so much of food coming from outside, when there's so much of changes happening in the ecosystem around society, family? How do I manage my emotional well-being, mental well-being? It's going to be a big challenge. And people who are able to be aware about this and sensitive about this, they'll have to understand. I'll have to change my expectation, my friend, my mother, my father, my children, and be comfortable with it. Most of the times we struggle because we use some reference points and then we have expectations. So how do you really, with changing time, manage yourself is going to be another area. We can go to the next slide. Coming to families. Family's well-being, as we said, is equally important. While you might be in best state, physical, mental, and emotional, but your near environments also need to be in the best state. Now, each individual then have to play a role, and each family member has to understand the world is evolving, things around us are changing. Within that, if we as an ecosystem and as a family have to be happy and support each other, and as, can you put on mute, please? Yeah. So managing families, if you are managing yourself properly, how do you really manage, influence other family members also to manage their emotional well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being effectively? Shant, can you put on mute, please? Yeah, thank you. So I think all members of family, how do you really enable them and build their awareness around ensuring that they are also physically, mentally, emotionally in a good state, understanding their space, understanding where they are coming from. Children will come, kids will come from a different space, parents will come from a different space. हमारे जमाने में ऐसा नहीं होता था, is what we hear parents thinking. I mean, talking all about. Yeah, when we are talking to our children, we saying, यार हमने तो ऐसा किया था. Like, I mean, a generation which is currently at 45, 55, around 55 today, they think differently. Generation which is at 45, they think differently. Generation which is at 35 and 25 think very differently. So each one of us need to understand that aspect, give that space to the respective, whether it is a father, a mother, a daughter, a whomsoever, and look, considering that, how can we really enable them to be in the best space is going to be very important. If we can go to the next slide. Now let us come to, you have understood your family, you yourself, family, and then let us understand the environment. Now the external environment, because for a leader, if he has to really be a successful person, he has to manage himself properly, he has to manage his family properly. And the next important thing is the environment, right? I mean, he's associated with a particular commercial entity, a business enterprise, and that business enterprise he has to add value. For him, it is important at a leadership level, you need to understand the environment first. Now, environment is geopolitical situation. How are it can be at a country level. For example, we are wanting Hindi to be a compulsory language in Tamil Nadu, and you can see the kind of discussions and arguments which are happening between leaders. You can see as a country the way political system earlier was, the way currently we as a country are run. We are talking about earlier there were Lok Sabha seats based on earlier formula. Now at a central level, there's a discussion which is happening at a different level. So that is at a country level. Now, if my business is within country versus my business in a state versus it is in a district, versus it is only in my town, one has to be aware about geopolitical situation and impact around that, because even at a town level, even at a village level, even at a metro level, there's a political situation which happens, and because of that political situation, there can be impact on the business, and it can impact the policies within that state, because at each city level, there's a structure, local governance body which is having policies. At a state level, you have a state body. At a country level, you have a central government, and at a global level, again, there's so much of change which is happening. Earlier, post World War, we found institutes like United Nations, WHO. existence of these institutions is at a, and it's a question mark now, because one of the largest contributor who a country which was funding them, they have saying, "Well, this money is waste. Why should we fund it?" That was a developed economy. So at a global level, there are so many changes which are happening. There's governments earlier were thinking about globalization. Now we are thinking about we our local citizens first. I look at the America, whatever Mr. Trump is talking now. He rode on the wave of protectionism, America first, and in India also, similar kind of approach is taken. So that is impacting. Now, once the leader has come with that mandate, then he's very clear because he want to maintain his political influence. So he's taking decisions which are going to impact tariffs, and the tariffs will impact businesses across the globe. The geopolitical situation understanding is extremely important. Now, along with geopolitical situations, then there's obviously there are economists and there are global investment firms. There's a Goldman Sachs, and there are global firms which are having funds, which are deploying funds globally. And while there are finance ministers and governments which are making policies, people who have capital are going to make their decisions. And the way capital cycles, yeah, the way these people will take decisions will have impact on the way funds will flow, the way capital will be available. So macro, microeconomics at a global level, at a country level, at a state level, at a town level, and a village level is going to change. Policies are changing. With politics, policies are changing. So understanding the environment and the way environment is today panned out is extremely important for a leader, because ultimately, as a leader, he is running a business in whatever geography, in whatever category. He has to be extremely aware about what is happening around, because he's expected to bring in strategy which will allow the business to sustain and grow. So now the kind of challenges for leaders which are going to be there, and because this whole aspect is going to rapidly change and is going to be ever changing, and the decisions which are going to be taken on policies, on broader aspects are going to be very, very different, and they'll, at times you will feel that this was not expected, but that kind of decision will come. So one has to be ready for those eventualities. Which we can go to the next slide. So one is for a leader, it is broad strategic environment, external environment. And next important, very critical is you have understood the environment, you know what is happening globally. You also know what business you are into. But that execution, if that business has to build, it is people and teams, right? Now, building effective teams, earlier, all the parlance, yeah, earlier principles, are they going to stand today? Yeah, what part of it will stand today and what part of it will not stand today? Earlier, people, when they were applying for leaves, even for when I was applying for leave, my own marriage, I was wanting to take 10 days leave, and I was okay if my manager give me 5 days leave. Today, there are youngsters who are coming and saying, I am burnout and I want to take 3 days off. And when he's taking that call, he's very clear that even if my boss doesn't give me leave, I'll resign and go. So at individual level, at an organizational level, so many things are changing, and basic principle of managing people and building teams and human resources are going to see change. So one has to be really, when we are building effective teams, one has to be really aware about how individual is thinking. Similarly, we have to be aware about how that individual's family, because when an individual is working in an organization, I think most of the times we have been earlier treating him as an individual, that he's coming and devoting his time X number of hours, and hence we build policies around him and largely consider him as a individual and contributor to the business. But I think now, moving ahead, we'll have to think about not only him, but how he and his family and society around him is evolving. Because if he's taking a break 3 days, that he has changed, right? Individual has changed, and he has changed because of the knowledge, because of the skills. He's happy saying that I'll resign because I'll find out another job. Earlier, number of jobs were not as many, right? So today people are saying, I'm happy to resign and take up another job. That is how individuals are changing. His family situation is good. He knows his parents. Yeah, he's not going. Roti kapda makne ka issue nahi hoga agar resign bhi kiya to. So that risk taking ability has gone up. His knowledge has gone up. He said, "मुझे नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी, I start something on my own." So while leaders are going to think about building effective teams, one has to really take a much more larger view, much more broader view, and if you have to really create an environment wherein people aspire to come and work with you, aspire to be part of the organization, what are the kind of flexibilities which are required? What are the kind of career paths required? Earlier, people used to talk about career path of becoming a CEO. Today, youngsters are, not necessarily they want to be a CEO. They are saying, I want to work 4 hours. There's clearly in coming days, a lot of brilliant people will say, I don't want a full-time employment. While building teams, earlier, top 30, 40 people, if they are anchored, if they are bright people, organizations were able to build businesses. Today, good quality people, brilliant people might say, no, I don't want to do a full-time job. Imagine a situation where in an organization, key people are not wanting to come for a full-time job. So how does a leader think about building an organization? There's a dramatic change which is happening. It is undercurrent is huge. There's clearly a tectonic shift which is happening in individual preferences, the way things are going to shape in terms of building organization structures, having KRAs, defining deliverables. It is undergoing sea change. All of us need to be very, very sensitive about it. Are we really enough sensitive about it? Are we still using our old uh, frameworks, old methods to the changing need? How are we changing? And this change will have to be driven by leader. He can't expect that HR team or somebody. That is how the leader will play a role, right? He has to see 10, 15, 20 years ahead and look at what is required to be changed now. With ChatGPT, do you really require such large teams? Earlier marketing, today I'm decent. I can see in last 6 months. Earlier there used to be marketing team for 1,000 crore business, 20 people team, and marketing was considered to be the core. It was considered to be the brain of the business. Right now, people are saying, do I need a 20 people team? I'm okay to have a 4 5 people team, marketing. And is marketing to be my brain of the business? Maybe not. Maybe sales people will evolve as leaders. So look at how things are evolving. And as a leader, if you are not sensitive about it, if you're not aware about it, for people to become absolute, it will not take more time. So demands on understanding how things are changing, how we need to look at organization, how we need to building teams, big time there's a change which is happening. And how can we be more sensitive about it? It's extremely critical and crucial. Yeah. We can go to the next slide. So building effective teams and building culture for the future. If my core team is not going to be full-time employed with me, if people are going to give preference for themselves first, me first, how do I build a culture which allows an organization to be sustained? Because and on the other hand, technology and innovation is changing things very, very rapidly. Are you able to understand when I'm saying it is like building an aeroplane while we are flying, and it is going to be a continuous process? So if the organization has to stay relevant, evolve, how do I really change different spare parts, different aspects of my aeroplane so that this aeroplane still continues to take higher and higher heights? It has all the basics in place to continue be flying. There's no challenge around that. Building culture for the future, looking into the future and what is going to be relevant, because culture doesn't happen in of 6 months, 1 year. Building culture takes 5 years. Earlier, organizations, when they were wanting to build culture and transition, people used to talk about at least 4 5 years. But within 4 5 years, today, the way people think is going to change. The way businesses are done is going to be changing. So, what are those core basic tenets? How are you going to focus on that to build a culture for the future? preferences are changing. The way importance of money is changing. The way people are using money is changing. And earlier there was barter system, then there was currency. Now today we have bitcoins and blockchains. So economics and flow of money is changing. Around that, how does really one think to build a culture for the future? And it's going to be very, very interesting and very, very challenging. So I think building culture aspect one needs to be aware about. Yeah, Kushi, we can go to the next slide. Acha, can I request, since we are halfway, can I request all of you to put on your cameras? You would like to click a picture for this webinar. So Kushi, you can stop sharing the screen and we can ask everybody to click, put on their cameras and we can take a picture around it.
Please put on your cameras, everyone.
All of you, please put on your cameras. We want to just click a picture. All of you can oblige by putting on your cameras. Also, whatever we have discussed now, we will also be putting on LinkedIn and social media and digital media for benefit for larger audience. So in case if you're okay, be tagging in you in LinkedIn, please write in the chat box whether you're okay, because idea is, while we are a team of here 20 people. If this knowledge can go to, if you feel it can relevant and it can go to many people, please allow us to tag you in the social media, whatever activities we are doing. Kushi,
Thank
once you
you,
take your
everyone.
picture, then let me know that.
We
Yeah,
are
we
ready.
can go to the next. Yeah. Yeah. I think we have to go to the 10th slide. Put on 10th slide. Yeah. So look at what is happening. So environment, building teams. We talked about managing yourself. You talked about managing family. Then we talk about managing environment for a leader. Now then we also talked about building teams and building culture. The fifth point is emerging. For a leader, what is important is to understand emerging trends and watch trends. A leader has to see 10, 15 years ahead of the time. And if he has to look at that, what are the emerging trends? Look at the world order is collapsing. Earlier, and this is part of evolution. That's why initially when I spoke about evolution, from a reference point that it is evolving. And the stage at which we are right now, world order is collapsing. The way earlier world was and the way world today is, it's changing. United Nations may stay, may not stay. World Health Organization may stay, may not stay. Earlier, there were two economies largely controlling and governing. Now there are maybe 4 or 5. So it's from a unipolar to bipolar. It's going to change to multipolar power equations across different countries. And despite being multipolar, each country, the way they were earlier submissive, each country, like because they were getting funds from a particular country and they were submissive and they're towing their line. Today, smallest countries might not toe line of the largest country. So world order is collapsing. There's a rise of nationalism versus globalization, and it will only accelerate. You also never know each country which is having multiple states whether they will continue to behave as a federal state, a central state. Within countries also, central state versus federal state, those dynamics is happening, right? I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. So that's changing rapidly now. Earlier academic degrees, IITs and IMAs were considered to be like the best, right? I personally foresee next 10, 15 years, if academic institutes don't change themselves, they will become absolute. With technology, at a click of button, if I have a right attitude, I can be most intelligent person. I can compete with anybody from IIT and IIM. Yeah, even best of the best schools globally. So academic degrees, if academic institutes evolve and change, they'll stay relevant. But if they continue to be in the world of their own and they don't change, it will be very difficult for them to survive. As I said, girls from Bihar can compete with someone from Harvard Business School, and not necessarily they are literate. They can be illiterate, because today there's a app which I can learn any language across the world without knowing that language, without going to school, and I can prepare a marketing plan, a business plan for any part of the world, sitting in any corner of the world. So knowledge is democratic. If I have a right attitude, I can do anything. So academic degrees are going to change. I mean, if they are relevant, academic institutes, if they really start changing and looking at saying how do we really evolve and what kind of skill set which we impart, I personally feel academic institutes, if they start focusing more on life skills, they will remain relevant. If they are not going to focus on life skills, they will become absolute. Life skills are going to be extremely important. That is what will stay relevant. Society is in flux. As I said, me versus others, my country, my state versus country, my country versus globe. I mean, it is all moving from one world to be towards protectionism. People are focusing on me as an individual, me as my country, my state. So that is clearly changing. That's clearly an emerging trend. Demographic shift. While at one point of time, last 10, 20 years, we have been talking about demographic advantage we as a country. In next 20 years, we are going to be aging economy, without any doubt. As I told you, people with 55 years age, we were having 2 children. Some of them were having 3 children. People at a 45 years age, there were 20%, 10, 20% of them were having one child. People who are 35 years of age, 60, 70% of them are having one child. 10, 15% of them are not getting married. People who are 35 at 25, 20% of them saying, I don't want to get married. And 30, 40% of them saying they are not wanting to have kids. And people who are wanting to have kids, they're saying at best one. And this is not only happening in metros, but even if you go to villages, 25, 30% boys in villages are not able to get married because girls are getting educated in villages, and these boys are not finding girls. So population is, I mean, I think it is going to decrease much more rapidly than what we are expecting. So change in demographics obviously will have change the impact on businesses and all other aspects. So these are some of the emerging trends to watch. We can go to the next slide. So clearly for leaders, future leaders, managing the present, because currently the way business is done, you have to manage that. You have to develop that insight of seeing in the future, be sensitive about it. So for leaders, if the challenges are only going to get manifold, and hence managing present, seeing in the future, this what will require here is more on life skills, because knowledge is easily available, technology is easily available. Life skills will play very, very important and crucial aspect for future leaders. Sensitive, being aware about that and being aware about how things are changing. If people have to manage larger businesses, how good are they at their own life skills, managing themselves, managing families, managing individuals. All aspects are going to undergoing sea change. Challenges for future leaders are only going to increase. How do you really prepare for those challenges? Going to be interesting journey. It is going to be very, very crucial for you to grow in leadership roles. Yeah, we'll now take last 2 slides and then we'll open for discussion. Kushi, you can go to the last 2 slides. Now, what we think are new skills required for future CEOs broadly. And so strategic foresight, this was earlier also, it remains true now also. But the strategic foresight earlier, the speed at which you have to think, and in future, what speed at which we'll have to think. The speed, as I said, it change is getting accelerated, evolution is getting accelerated. Hence, the strategic foresight, lens, and speed at which one has to think one has to look at the speed at which one you have to think. Digital agility. Technology agility is extremely important. Any leader who's not technology savvy, it will be almost impossible for him to grow into leadership roles. He might be in any function. So if that technology agility, digital agility is not there, I mean, you cannot grow beyond a point. You will only stagnate at a junior most level. And again, even at a junior most level, because the way things, junior most roles are also done is going to change. So even at junior level, you will have to build that agility. Technology agility, digital agility, if you're not imparting that, you'll not, it will be very difficult for you to survive. I foresee if people don't adopt that as a part of life, it's going to be extremely difficult. Survival of fittest जो बोलते हैं ना evolution में, here this ability is extremely important for even to survive. Forget about survival, going to the leadership level. Emotional intelligence again is going to be important because the whole world and the way things are changing, emotional intelligence is going to become more and more important. So these things, emotional intelligence, digital agility, the importance of these pieces will be much more than the academic degrees. Yeah, intelligence level. Crisis management, because things are going to change very, very fast. You have thought of one problem by flying aeroplane, but there will be another problem which will come. So number of crises which you will have to manage will be manifold, and firefighting will be happening on multiple fronts. It's not one area, one piece where you have crisis. There will be multiple areas where you will have crisis on your own self, around family, around society, around business, around teams. So that is going to be extremely important. And now the last slide. Along this side, sustainability is going to be important because we as planet has to survive. How global leaders take view, how organizations take view, how protectionism is going to impact this. But if, as a planet, if you have to really manage this planet very well, how leaders take view on their businesses and the categories which are is going to be extremely crucial. Data literacy is part of digital and AI, but I think how do you really build that? Cultural intelligence and evolution of cultures. When cultural intelligence earlier was you're going to a particular country and understanding that culture, but in each culture, in each family, there's an evolution which is happening in the culture. So it's not only cross country culture, it is cross generations. Earlier generation gap used to be 25, 30 years. Today in 4, 5 years, you can see there's a generation gap. Kids, as I said, people who are 55 years are having 2 kids or more than 2 kids. People who are 45 years are having one child. People with 35 years are having lesser children. People are opting not to have children. And younger generation, a good number of them are saying, I don't want to get married. Cultural intelligence, one has to look at from that lens. And then the ethical decision making. Along all sides, if you have to build an organization, earlier people used to say organization which is having very good value system, transparency, good ethics, fair practices, career paths, those organizations can build a good culture. And around that, one can build a culture. Now look at the way ethical decision making is going to change. Profit versus sustainability, career versus business objectives. Individuals are thinking, for me, I have to take a break. I can do, well, your leaders are thinking, I can do 4 part-time jobs rather than being fully employed in one company. So ethical decision making again is a big thing for leaders to understand how things are going to pan out. So it's quite a challenging environment. But at the same time, how do you embrace the challenge and get yourself ready and prepare yourself to be a better leader? So people who are able to embrace it, adopt it, and then go with the tide, understand, grow. So people will have to evolve. Leaders will have to continuously, daily basis evolve. With that note, I think that was the last slide. See, at high potential career planning, our objective, I'm telling you, is to really sensitize people, enable people. First, we want people to be happy. And if they're happy, then they'll be successful. So, idea is to bring topics which are relevant to people, where people can have insights. And this platform of Saturday webinars is to share insights and thoughts so that we can enable people and help people. As an organization, we are trying to build something which we are saying, can it be an institution wherein we can add value to people and help them to be happy and successful? That's what we as an organization at High Potential Career Planning are aiming. Manisha, your thoughts, and then we can open it for the discussion.
I think you have covered, almost the span of topics that actually, define the current environment in which CEO, new CEO, qualities and their competencies need to emerge. And let's ask the audience about what they think applies to them or how they see in this shaping out, and if they want to add anything more to this.
You can stop screen sharing.
Hello, Sandeep. Anil here.
Yeah, Anil, please.
Yeah. So I think a lot of insights. Thank you for sharing all your insights and wisdom for last so many years. Many things we have read here and there, but when it comes to digital literacy, that is very, very important. Organizations are evolving, technology is evolving. Without digital literacy, it will be difficult. But always, whether it is AI is important or human intelligence is important, human intelligence will have a large part as far as common sense, empathy, and these qualities are concerned. Will have a long importance in human intelligence. That's what I feel. And uh, what is your thoughts on it? AI or HI?
I would like to take that one. So, to me, it feels like these are not either or questions actually. And we will all see
Correct.
the evolution of AI as it goes forward. But, using of AI needs a certain amount of intelligence. If you do not know the subject, if you have no clue, you're going to be extremely mediocre and sometimes hugely erroneous if you just rely on AI. So using AI in the best possible manner and getting the best out of it, that requires human intelligence. That also requires a certain amount of education and experience to be able to direct your query, question, or your thoughts in a certain manner. So I think both put together, it's a great idea.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Well said. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, Rohit.
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank you for the session, and it was good to hear the distilled version of how things have evolved, and of course foresight about what the future will entail and require the CEOs to have in them. Um, so two parts of my question. One is, of course, digital literacy is something that is becoming extremely crucial. And by the way, there are plethora of options that are available for people to opt for that, but is there a rational way to approach, like find out, okay, what resource is the best for my industry, or for personally for a particular CX level? So that was one part of my question. And the second is, of course, the business dynamics are changing, as already covered earlier, that of course they were like modern trade, and now with the q commerce, quick commerce, everything is changing rapidly. And even the modern, it's like technology is taking a leap. So from GT, we thought it will go to MTN, from there to Ecom, and then to QCom. So obviously MTN Ecom is taking a backseat, and now suddenly we see the advent of QCom. So how is it possible? Maybe this is a kind of very philosophical question, but how is it possible for a CEO to have that kind of foresight? Of course, you can think of different scenarios. Yeah, this may pan out like that, and then of course, how do you build organization accordingly? So these are the two parts of my question.
I would, I'm not an expert in the area of distribution, but if I just take about ideas which come up to us, none of which actually starts out at, uh, suddenly one day it erupts. There are green shoots and you see it over a period of time. Now, as a CEO, it is the job of the CEO to scan the horizon and see what all is coming up. So there is a new distribution style which is coming up. People are trying to do this, and usually you do get a couple of, if not, years, definitely you're not getting years, but you are getting a couple of months, a year, 2 years, by the time this model actually, becomes larger. So scanning the environment, understanding, where we are, how this could impact us or how we can incorporate this. Better still, to have certain, experimental projects, etc., to say, okay, new ideas are coming up. If they match my business, can I start experimenting in those areas? That's the way you can kind of keep checking out for saying, what are the new things happening? How can I be part of this? And, doing a little bit of pilots and stuff. That's how, organizations are handling these new technologies. We don't have to be the mover, or, we're not the inventor. Every company is not the inventor or mover of a new distribution channel technology or whatever it may be. But if you're a keen observer and you place a certain amount of onus on what's going to happen in future, you understand change is coming, then you are a little better prepared.
Thank you, Manisha. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a experience in distribution, so I wanted to add a few thoughts on it. Actually, when you interact with your customers for a longer period of time, the gaps and the pain points are coming every now and then. But somebody has to find out a business model and encash it. That's what happens in e-commerce and Q-commerce. These gaps and these issues and these expectations from the customers are there in the market. But somebody who can make a business model and leverage it, they have made proactively, they've made a business out of it. I think in every business and in every field, that kind of pain points are there. That's what but how commercially you can encash it is a question uh, uh, we must address.
Absolutely.
Hi,
Yeah.
Sandeep Bharat here.
Yeah.
See, to Rohit's question and what Manisha has touched upon, I have an old example. Way back in 2002, 2003, when internet was not as big and the online gaming was not as big,
Mm-hmm.
we still had a gaming at that time when I relaunched Dan French, wherein the ladies would be asked to depilate a virtual model. Okay, and then based on the speed at which they do, they were getting rewarded. And trust me, I got at that time, way back in 2002, I got 10,000 people actually trying it. And that was the time when I asked the agency, can we go online rather than having an offline kind of an activity?
Right.
So it is something that you as an individual, if you start trying to experiment that Manisha just said, and as an organization, if you're willing to kind of look ahead, I think you will be able to assimilate the changes and you will be able to incorporate those changes into you as an organization as well as an individual.
I'll just add to that. I'll tell you so how organizations can prepare themselves to look at emerging consumer and consumer needs is one. So organizations will have to be more focused on customers and what are their needs, and that is continuous process. While it's an old thing, but now the change is going to only get accelerated. So you have to be more sensitive about it. And what is also happening, for example, in distribution of FMCG distribution, ideally FMCG, no, if you Hindustan Lever at one point of time started Sangam, and they were they know the distribution business very well, right? And they started Sangam, which was direct to home delivery 25 years ago, somewhere around 97, 98. Okay, so they were able to see that it is coming, but it was maybe premature. So that is one. But now, for someone to develop that model, good number of times the existing organizations are not able to visualize the plus. What didn't work in Sangam is because they were trying to only sell HUL products. Customer was wanting to have home delivery, but he was not wanting to have only HUL products. So, had they been open to be taking all the company products at that point of time, then Zepto or Blinkit would have emerged that time. But it took somebody else from outside to develop. And today, youngsters like these are kids, right? Zepto and the founder of Blinkit, some earlier entrepreneurs started, they couldn't get wrong, but once Zomato took over Blinkit, they turned it around. Now, one is what is happening when existing organizations, how can they foresee that customers are now wanting home delivery? And if they are wanting home delivery, should I sell only my products or should I collaborate? Because they only will not want my. And then there's another platform which is coming, which is saying everything, whatever you want under the sun, I'll give you in 10 minutes at home. But it has disrupted things, right?
Yeah.
So I think what is important to understand, one is how can you foresee the changes coming, how you are close to your consumers and pick up those insights and be open to collaborate, saying I can't only give myself a solution, but is there a possibility of me to collaborate? Yeah, do something else. Just thought of adding.
Also, it's to me, it sounds like organizations need to build capabilities. Now, looking at something new is about, it's not about having that idea or when you started. It's about having the flexibility and the ability to look at an opportunity and quickly go ahead and adapt to that. And in most of our organizations which are large, we get stuck with internal problems. Our supply chain will not react, our sales will not in the same market, different channels will not talk to each other. Our products are not probably of the right nature to be going to on a certain platform. Our marketing is not ready, and getting all of this together, which is internal, which is in our own control, that's where we fail. We don't really fail in the market, we fail internally because there is too much of problems of change. Everybody is stuck in their ways, every department has its own way of looking at things, and therefore we can't respond fast.
Absolutely.
There are many industry segments who gone against e-commerce and then build up service level in their touch points to customers beyond customers' expectation in terms of not only product and services. They could able to manage to stop the q-commerce way, and they continue to build up their capability on the general trade and could able to do very well. There are examples. There are so many examples of engineering and non-engineering product in that category.
Sure.
So
To add to what Manisha is saying,
Yeah.
Manisha is saying is when an organization needs to build its capabilities, it's important that the organization needs to try, fail, retry, and succeed. The first most important thing is the organization needs to understand it's going to fail.
Absolutely. So I'll just give another example to what Manisha said. For example, I was working with Kodak, and Kodak was having best of digital cameras. They were ahead of anybody, Samsung, yeah, anybody today who was there. But because their whole structure was used to sell analog cameras, they were not used to sell digital cameras, and they were trying to sell digital cameras to the same team. So despite having technology, the company is history. Because, as Manisha said, there are internal structures. We fail there. Most of the time, organizations fail in internal structures.
Yeah.
Vikas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I like the presentation. You covered a whole gamut of emerging situations which are very different compared to how it was a decade back, and I think it also points up to the fact that coming times are going to be even more laden with flux. I mean, things are going to change a lot. So adaptability, I think, in that sense, is going to be very important. Because resilience doesn't happen automatically. It needs a lot of adaptability, which means that you should be willing to change. And if you are fixated on how things have happened in the past, then that is, they say what got you here will not take you there. So that is going to be extremely relevant. The second aspect you talked about is crisis management. And, I think it's a very powerful point because we don't know where and how the crisis is going to hit us. And unfortunately, we just saw what happened yesterday in Vietnam and Thailand with earthquake hitting, right? And it's a crisis, and the whole government the leadership is put to test with so many lives lost. And these things can happen, and they say that even North India can experience something. So I think crisis management is extremely important. What do I say? Skill set in leaders, and there is a lot of climate-driven crisis, etc., that one can anticipate, given the fact that we are seeing so much of climate-driven activities, and with the global warming happening and those kind of things. So these are a few thoughts that are in my mind. Tech, I think somebody made a very important point that the way technology is evolving, and Manisha made also amazing point, wherein she said that it requires an intelligence to use also an AI. ऐसा नहीं कि बस AI है मतलब मैं यूज करते रहूंगा या रहूंगा, उसमें भी आपको इंटेलिजेंस चाहिए. एंड आई सी दैट देर आर कोर्सेज विच पीपल आर रनिंग ऑन प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियर, कि एआई को प्रॉम्प्ट कैसे देना है, ये भी सीखना पड़ेगा लोगों को. So I think things are changing. And Sandeep, you talked about a very important point which resonated with me, that should I have a 20 people team to run marketing, or, with the use of, a lot of these tools, you can think of creating a very lean structure. So people have to rethink about all these things. So it's really time for people and leaders to take a pause and think how different they can be from the coming times, for the coming times.
I would actually like Ruchi to speak up. She's been here. We haven't heard from you, Ruchi.
Hey, hi everyone. I've been listening. Sorry, I joined late because I was thinking that this is happening on the LinkedIn and I didn't check my emails. But good discussion going on, and I think the CEOs, what they need to do is, I am in HR and I've been a corporate HR professional before becoming a founder and an entrepreneur. I think the idea, the concept that I believe is that, you have to be very much tuned to the market realities, because things are changing so fast at an exponential rate, right? So many things changes around us. And as someone just rightly mentioned out that there are people who are like even training how to use chat GPT and how to prompt engineer. And I think as a team, as a CEO, what you need to do is you need to have the right people in the right place, right, with the right skills, with the right mindset. And you need to figure out at a very high strategic level that what is required, what is your vision, and then get the right people on board to execute that vision.
Sure. Absolutely. I see some more people.
Yeah, hi. This is
Hi,
Bhanu here.
Bhanu.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
Bhanu, please go ahead.
Thanks, Sandeep. Hi. Thanks, Sandeep, for quite great insights. And I represent wellness sector. Okay, primarily where we are people-driven organizations, right? In the sense that, and I've been into this sector for more than a decade. And so I'm quite inquisitive, to understand that how this particular domain, I mean, if you guys have expertise here, in the sense that how this is going to go through this whole, AI and, what you said, technology shift, and how this sector probably will be taking, various, so to say, changes in terms of, because there, we are absolutely people driven in the sense I had a team of 350, and I mean, AI is something which is not spoken in the organization yet. And I was quite interested in terms of understanding the whole landscape, how this is changing and how AI is kind of helping. And I've attended multiple webinars of late to understand that, where the whole technology shift stands for us when it comes to the wellness domain. So any expertise here, because I'm quite interested to understand that piece. Understanding AI and having, as you guys have been talking about, having right capabilities in place. That's something which definitely a CEO or probably senior level people can do that. But understanding the whole ecosystem in your own domain is something which is very, very, at least for me, it's very imperative. So if you guys have some sort of understanding here, that would be a great help.
I'll just pick up some things. Let us look at you're in wellness and let us look at from a customer lens, and let us look at your people lens and organization building lens.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now, in wellness, earlier awareness and knowledge availability about what will impact what part of your, what food you will take, and how that food will
Yeah.
consumption and how it will impact your health, and understanding and knowledge about that for customers were almost minimal. Okay.
Correct.
Now, the customer who is very conscious and health conscious, he is likely to have all the required knowledge with the globally best PhD or someone who has done whatever research. That knowledge
Yeah.
is accessible to him.
Hmm.
Customer is going to be very, very demanding because his knowledge and awareness has gone up tremendously. वो मिट्टी सोने के भाव में बेचने के दिन चले गए अभी.
Hmm.
I mean, earlier people were building a brand, and you have a brand and then you can sell it. So customer nowadays is going to be very demanding because his awareness and knowledge has gone up. He'll be able to relate, if I'm paying money, is that brand delivering ROI for me or not, from multiple angles. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you another example, for example, there are so many D2C personal care brands which have evolved, right?
Correct.
Now there are reasons to it. Whether those brands, how they add value to the customers, different thing. But earlier days, for an organization to build a consumer brand, one used to have a huge sales and distribution network. You have to prepare a commercial,
Yeah.
TV commercial, and launch a brand and blah blah blah. Now there are companies which are related building a brand in 2 3 years. I mean, the dynamics have changed. So that one is that aspect of doing business, and that aspect of business, then you have to look at think how my team has to function. And when you have to look at my team, for example, if earlier, I mean, I was wanting to have a knowledge and insight, if my marketing person, yeah, sales and operations supply chain person, if he has to understand what is the raw material cost of a particular ingredient, now I can go and do research and find out for myself across the globe what is the raw material price. Is my vendor giving me the right price and right quality or not? Now, if I train my supply chain guy or a marketing guy or HR guy to get that knowledge and insight across the globe, and technology is going to enable me, then the kind of impact it can have on your business plan and profitability can be very different. So your team having that insight versus not having that insight. And you are not using technology, you are not adapting technology, but somebody else will adapt and then somebody will have a better success ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So should I stay away from technology? Should I not enable my team members to learn? Because you're having 200 people team, but you will be able to do it 30 people team. So that will impact your profitability and how much you can invest where.
Yeah.
Just to give you
Absolutely.
some
So,
heads up. While I don't know your business, but I'm just giving you some heads up on those areas.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I will.
and a lot of it is even at this moment, I'm not talking futuristic at all. Even at this moment, a lot of why you can use AI effectively is also because of consistency in business, the kind of advice you're giving to people. If some of this is linked to AI platforms, even the reports that you generate, you don't need a person to sit and write it down.
Mm.
Or if you can at least give prompts saying, if these are the things that you're looking at, these are the indicators of health or the goals of the person, AI will be able to generate something, and AI can be trained to work in your manner, what your organization advises rather than general global gang. So that helps you to come out with. Now, taking that out doesn't mean you have to follow that. You will have experts who look at it and say, no, not this, but this. But it can help you to, not only make you the first level, draft, but also to create reports and, generate, and maybe you need less people to do that then. Systems in AI can easily be built around all of
I
this.
fathom. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I just want to add something on this topic.
Yes.
So basically, I work a lot with startups. I run a startup accelerator, and recently I was having a conversation with one startup, and he's a solo founder, and he's in the wellness space, and he's created a platform using AI for personality development. Basically, it's like an AI companion that can be given to people who desire this thing. And he was telling me some very interesting stories. So, one can take a diagnostic, online, and then the AI would give an assessment of that. And then that AI can act like a companion on WhatsApp. And he was giving me one very nice story about his daughter's friend who was going through an anxiety for making a presentation the following day. And she used this AI companion, and this AI companion really helped in alleviating some of her fears. And next day after the presentation, she wrote back saying that, hey, your dad's tool is absolutely great. So I'm just telling you about one use case that in the wellness space that I came across.
So,
Sure.
so,
Thanks.
so Bhanu, I think one is, I personally believe any business, any sector, any country, one needs to embrace technology because things are changing so rapidly,
Yeah.
and staying lagging behind will not be advisable, and it will only have challenges for the organization. So for all leaders, all CEOs, it is important that they adopt and embrace and learn to handle things and learn to handle technology effectively, to stay relevant and to stay ahead of the curve, and also to be efficient, because people who will adopt it will have an advantage. People who don't adopt it will not have an advantage. And hence, if somebody is having an advantage, you know what happens to the business.
Again, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Grace. Thank you.
We have Anup and Amit. Would you like to say something?
I'm not sure. Gaurav, any thoughts from your side, Gaurav? Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, hearing all of you guys. Very insightful discussions are going on here. Um, See, we have, ourselves seen many of these things changing in the recent years, and many of these companies also entirely changing their entire product approaches, right? When it comes to AI and how the technological landscape overall is changing. For example, you talked about Kodak, and we also know this Nokia as a phone, right? They could not adopt, and they are also not very well known now. It was such a darling phone. We all have loved it. And not just, about Nokia or just technology. I think it is all happening as we are, working. The entire tech landscape is changing right now. So, I mean, it is needless to say that the faster we change, the better it is for, all of us as being leaders or wannabe leaders. Um, and how, although, we may think that yes, it may be impacting us, it may not be impacting us, but directly or indirectly, there is a lot of impact, right? We all are hearing and listening to so many companies changing their gears, and now in one way or the other, things are impacting all of us. I have been seeing a lot of it happening all around, and the entire ways of how digital technology and how digital products are being built is changing. So, how fast we can inculcate, how fast we can make use of, these technological advancements, that is going to play a major role. I've seen companies which were absolutely brick and mortar, right? Which were like having physical shops, and they have now become entirely, based on technology. For example, restaurants and dark kitchens, right? How these things have now gone at the back of the, curtains, and they are operating their dark stores now. So all of that is only due to, how things have changed, right? So, I mean, from my side, I would just like to say that there are many more things happening right now and many more things to happen in coming times, right? So we have to keep our eyes open and see how we can adopt these things faster. This dark kitchen thing is only, something where the entire layer of physicality has been removed. and everything, I think that is one example where technology is being leveraged to the max.
True.
Right. So the entire physicality of the shop or the restaurant has been taken away by technology, and everything is now behind the curtain. That is why we call that as a dark curtain, dark store. And everything is something that, what appears to us is very different than how business is really operated at the on the real terrain. So yeah, I mean, I think that many such things are happening, and many more such things are going to happen.
Absolutely. I think while we are only talking about technology, I think the way I was talking during the presentation, technology is one aspect, but with that technology, how geopolitical situations are changing, how we as individuals are changing, how family structures are changing, how environment is changing. All those aspects are extremely, extremely critical. So technology is one part, and technology is enabling change and accelerating the change. For a leader, it is extremely important to be aware and sensitive about how that is going to manifest in all aspects for him as an individual, for his family, for surrounding environment for him, for global geopolitical situations, society, habits. It is, I mean, the whole thing is, as I said, evolution. It is, it is evolution as a Homo sapiens. We as a race, we are evolving at a faster pace, and it is only going to get accelerated. So for leaders, building organizations, crisis management, building cultures, understanding environment, building teams, organization structures, all those aspects are changing. Technology is enabling that, yeah, accelerating that. But so many changes are happening around. So only adopting technology is not going to, I mean, it's the first step. But leaders will have to understand all 360-degree. They're just only getting technology, but if their thought process and approach towards people is not going to change, nothing is going to happen. And if they have to look at 360-degree, if they are not sensitive about the environment, they're getting technology, but if they're not sensing about the environment and ecosystem around them, it's not going to work. So for leaders, it's important that they take a 360-degree view. And earlier businesses were doing, I mean, there was monopolies. Nowadays, monopolies are not going to exist. I mean, all of us as leaders, it's extremely important that they take a holistic view across all aspects: customers, individual, families, society, changing behaviors, changing patterns. Change can be driven not by us, by somebody else. So collaborate with people, so on and so forth. I thought that aspect is equally important, or slightly more important. Technology is just one aspect of it, but a leader will have to really look at much more wider than just technology, much more wider.
I mean, as we can see, a war of epic proportions is going on globally between the expectations of employees who want to have facility to work from home or work from somewhere else, and from the older thought process, which is not always held only by older people, but also some of the newer people will have that, which is about come to office, work hard, put your nose to the grind. If I can't see you visually working very, very hard, then you're probably not contributing to the organization. And there is a merit, I mean, there are some good points to be said on both sides, but the solution is probably going to lie somewhere in between, wherein the business has to adapt to the expectations and also the realities. I mean, a lot of the reality of work from office has been because if you just don't look at the reality of travel for a person for 4 hours in a day, you say if you want to earn, you have to do this. Now the person's eyes are open and they're saying, I don't want to travel 4 hours a day. It's a problem. If I can avoid it, why should I do it? So you have to take that reality as well as the reality of how do you want to create a team, how do you want to create engagement, all of that. But a CEO's job is to not an easiest job in this sense right now, to figure out what's good for my business. How do I get the best talent? How do they remain engaged? How do they give best? And this thing is going on and in a very, very public way. I mean, many reputations are being made and marred on this topic at this point of time. So
I would just say that if the leaders start focusing on themselves first and see how they are changing, how their own emotions are changing, how their own thoughts are changing, and they start introspecting and reflecting first on themselves, they will see the patterns. they'll see the trends and then apply same thing to the family also, and then the society.
Yeah, but also Sandeep, there is, I think all of us, and definitely people who are CEOs, want to be CEOs, will also have to think that maybe my reality was different. I was brought up differently. I think differently. Maybe my social structures are different. If my wife is taking care of my household and I have been freed from that expectation, I may not be the only person. My model may not work for everybody else. What is the other person saying? Just hearing other people, just hearing stuff, just hearing people. So also opening my mind to say maybe my reality this works, but maybe it doesn't work for somebody else, and we have to be open to hearing. And a CEO's job becomes that also.
Absolutely, Manish. I can't agree more. So changing, one, you yourself have to change. Second, being sensitive that the world is changing and others are changing, and be extremely reflective on that. I think that's going to be very, very important for all of us. I think we are almost at tag end. Last 1 minute, if anybody would like to make any comment. So good. We are well within the time limits. Thanks a lot, all of you, to be here
Thank
on
you.
Saturday.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Wish you all the best and would love to have you on every Saturday.
Thank you, Sandeep and Manisha. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thank